Jean-François Lisée is standing by. Our feature is brought to you by Guaranteed Industries. Replace your old heating or cooling system with a Lennox system from Guaranteed. Remember, they've been in business for 75 years. Call 514-342-3400 or go online, guaranteedindustries.com, a Lennox premier dealer. Jean-François, a couple of things to get started with today. So why don't we get started with what Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois had to say today? We actually haven't heard from anyone in QS for quite some time. He says Pierre Fitzgibbon, quote, made a mess as far as the hydrophile is concerned. What do you think?
Well, it's incredible what's happening since yesterday. Of course, the National Assembly has started looking at the bill that Fitzgibbon had prepared for the future of energy production in Quebec. And off the bat, Michael Sabia, who's now the head of Hydro-Quebec, admitted on the questions from Marois Risky that in the last years, allocation of electricity had not been equitable between local enterprises and foreign enterprises coming in like Northvolt.
Right.
So he basically said that Fitzgibbon and Legault sold the sink to foreigners, and the Liberals had a number of examples of local companies who had been denied extension of energy procurement by hydro, whereas foreign companies, new companies, had these energy allotments. And so in question period, everybody, Liberals and Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois, went on to Legault to ask, well, now Sabia not only criticized Fitzgibbon, but basically criticized Legault. And Legault said, listen, if I have a choice between giving energy to $20 an hour jobs or $50 an hour jobs, I'll give them to the $50 hours jobs. And that is frankly new. That's a criteria that we know that he has been very forceful in trying to get wages up in Quebec, and that's part of the industrial strategy. But we had never heard that given the choice between local enterprise and foreign enterprise, the wage factor would be a determining factor in energy allotment. That's big news.
So, and I mentioned this earlier as well, this Bill 69, this massive, energy bill, which is going to now, of course, be discussed in the National Assembly without the man who basically created it, what kind of a problem does that pose?
Well, it's an opportunity as well, because they say, well, listen, we're going to have to build for $200 billion worth of energy production, maybe some energy conservation in that. How are we going to finance it, and how will we allocate this new energy? Some is for, of course, electric vehicles, electric buses, but for decarbonation of existing enterprises as well. And now, given what Sabia said yesterday, the debate is squarely, should we give preference to Quebec companies now, or should we always seek foreign enterprises who will provide higher wages? And that was not a debate that we saw coming.
Right.
But now it's imposed in the debate, and it's a real issue. I'm not saying that Legault is completely wrong, but it's counterintuitive to think that a nationalist leader, and that was a take from the Liberal Party, how can a nationalist leader not give preference to existing Quebec companies?
So let me move on and talk about something else. We know we have a by-election coming up, Amard LaSalle-Verdun. There's a poll today from poll aggregator 338 that now says it's a toss-up between the Liberals and the Bloc Québécois in that riding. Mm-hmm. We know because they've been talking about this for so long. This is, of course, one of two ridings, two by-elections, rather, on next Monday. How significant is it? I know if the Liberals lose, right, people will point to St. Paul, Toronto again and say, well, here we go. And people will say, well, I guess that means the Prime Minister should step down or whatever. But how important is this for the Bloc? Because the Bloc, and we were talking about this earlier as well, it seems now with what's gone on with the NDP ending this supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals and the Conservatives promising to bring up a no-motion vote on the floor of the House, suddenly the Bloc seem to hold the balance of power here.
It does, and the good news for the Bloc doesn't stop coming in, because this morning there was a Léger poll showing that they have 34% of voting intentions in Quebec. That's 9 points higher than either the Liberals or the Conservatives, who are both at 25. And when you look at the implosion of the vote in the rest of Canada, if the election were held today with these numbers, the Liberals would have 40 seats in Ottawa, and the Bloc would have 40 seats. And so there would be, I don't know, a coin toss to know who would be the loyal opposition of His Majesty. And so this poll also shows strength for the Bloc, which means that the indications that they could win on Monday are more than just laughable. And also, Mr. Trudeau and Stephen Guilbeault have said, it's normal that the governing party loses by elections. He said that yesterday, Guilbeault. So they're just preparing our minds for the normality of them losing these very strong liberal ridings that they have held come hell or high water for decades.
So, what I mean, to my point, what happens, Jean-François, if they in fact do lose there? What does that mean?
I don't think it means anything, because Trudeau, it's already baked in that he's going to lose every by-election until there's an election, and he knows that. He has survived the Toronto St. Paul by-election, although there were a number of grumblings within the caucus. He has survived all that. Opponents of him cannot organize to try to replace him. He seems to have neutralized Mark Carney by having him as an advisor. And so they're just going to play the clock. They're waiting as long as possible for interest rates to go down, for inflation to go down, for people to start having the dental program and the insulin and the contraceptives that are going to be free. And then they hope that Poilievre will make some kind of mistake. And that's why they need to stay in power. And that's why they need the Bloc to vote with them on non-confidential motion, which comes back to your first question. Well, do they have the balance of power? Yes, they do.
Then I would ask, if that's the case, is it a matter of who the Bloc, I guess the Bloc doesn't like less or likes less, rather than a Conservative government with Pierre Poilievre or a Liberal government with Justin Trudeau?
Well, the Bloc loves minority governments, because when there's a majority, they can't get anything. So, of course, if they their requirements now is, well, first for seniors, they want the increase in pensions that apply to seniors of 75 and up be applied to 65 and up, and that's for everyone in Canada, including in Alberta, where Daniel Smith is not very happy to see the separatists having the balance of power. But also they're asking for more leeway to Quebec in immigration and this never-ending case of the caribou protection. Mm-hmm. And so they're not asking for separation, they're asking for their traditional demands. We'll see how far Trudeau goes. He cannot give nothing. If he gives nothing, then he goes into an election. That's the play as it is, as rough as the situation is. That's how it is. So he's going to have to give something, unless he goes to the vote.
I don't know. It's getting interesting again after not being interesting for a long time. And suddenly, look at that. Yves-François Blanchette's driving the car.
Yeah.
So interesting times. All right. I thank you so much, Jean-François. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jean-François Lisée. Yeah, you bet. A former PQ leader who joins us now, of course, every Wednesday afternoon.